Now, as human beings like to do, they like to push things as far as they'll go until they break. And so people thought, well, triads is all well and good, but we want to start adding some more color. We want to add some more direction and more momentum. So we started to add notes. And so around the time of like Johann Sebastian Bach, any Bach fans? Yeah, what a rock star. So Bach, I mean, it wasn't him that did it, but it was around the time of his life, and he very much pioneered this idea of the dominant seventh. Very exciting. So this is the C major triad again, and this is with a dominant seventh in it. Okay, everyone knows this sound, or most people will know this sound, and it makes you want to go here, right? It's like C major, and I'm going to bias it. So what this introduces is the idea of voice leading, and voice leading happens when certain notes in chords want to move somewhere so much that your ear can't help but feel that resolution when it happens. So when you have a dominant chord like this, which is C7, if you want, then this note wants to rise, and this note wants to sink. So there's a lovely thing about this because you have, it pulls itself apart. You've got, right? In fact, you did it just then. I just did it with my fingers, and you sang it. It's nice. So this feeling is quite a universal feeling. And I mean, human beings have been obsessed with this idea of tension and release for a long, long time. There's so many things in the world and in life that is about tension and release. Almost everything is about tension and release. And so, a bit like the great storytellers, I suppose, people began to think about music as a way of describing a particular journey or a sensation or a series of emotions. And I think that's why it's come to the point where it's such a universal language. I mean, it comes directly out of speech to start with. But when it comes to harmony, the amazing thing is that you can describe different melody notes with different chords, and it can completely change the meaning of those melody notes, which is very exciting. I'll get to that later. But anyway, so we've got the triad, and we've got the dominant seventh, and I suppose you might be wondering, well, what happens if we keep on adding notes? Well, there are plenty of notes to add. But before I add notes to a dominant seventh chord, I'd like to talk about major and minor again. Because you know we started with this major here and a minor here, yeah? Well, I have a theory, which I'm very pleased with, which is that all major chords are fifths, and all minor chords are fourths, if you extend them properly. Let me demonstrate that. So C, G, D, A, E. Those are the first 5 notes of the C fifth cycle. And that's actually all of the notes in the C pentatonic scale. Do you guys know about pentatonics? So those 5 notes. So for me, that is C major in its most unbiased form. This, which is C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. That for me is the most opposite sound possible, right? Because what you've got is fifths, right? And fourths. So one opens out and one closes down. And the strange thing about this is that fourths are actually fifths upside down. So what you have is minor is actually a reflection of major, which is kind of insane. But basically speaking, I feel like when we want to extend a chord, when we want to extend a major chord, adding fifths is a very successful way to do this. And in jazz, are there any jazz musicians here? Okay, cool. In jazz, a lot of the time we think about climbing up from a note in thirds. So we have C major that we started with, and then we have a 7th, and we keep on adding. So we've got a 9th, and an 11th, and a 13th, and a 15th, and a 17th, and a 19th, 21st, etc. And there are essentially infinite notes to be added. And in a minor kind of direction, I feel like this, when we climb up in fourths, this is things sinking extremely deep into the key center and extremely bright, right? Is the fifth version. So there's the major and there's the minor. That's kind of how I think about it. And dominant chords, I suppose, are a different flavor of this, because dominant chords mean we're going somewhere. And then the major and the minor, that's kind of where we arrive. So, for example, this cadence that we started with, which is like C7 to F, right? What our ear primarily hears is a little bit of tension, and then a bit of release. And that's the most important thing here. So it's all about motion. So if I choose to add a note in this chord, like say for example I add this note, right? I have to give that note a place to resolve, right? So for example I might do, yeah, it's nice. So all of those notes have a place to go, which is very nice. If I choose to add a different note, say for example, those are two notes. This is a nice chord, one of my favorites. Does anyone know what this chord is called? So, flat 9 is correct, and a natural 13. Exciting. So this chord here, this note here wants to move down. There you go. Or it can move up. It's also very nice. But essentially speaking, you can add as many notes as you like, as long as they have a reason to be there, because the worst thing is notes that have no reason to be there. In fact, that's not the worst thing. There are worse things than that, like shipwrecks. But it's bad to have lots of notes that have no idea where to go. And so one thing I became interested in is, well, if you have a dominant chord, and the only thing that matters is tension, then why don't we try being as tense as possible and see how we can get out of it. So one thing I became interested in, for example, is you take this, which is C7, and then you climb from D up in D major and E major, major, like this. This is a ridiculous chord, right? It's definitely not resolved in any way, right? However, you can resolve that if you're very careful about it. You can make sure all those notes have a place to go. Right? It's okay. And so you just have to be careful about the notes that you add. But I like doing this. I like superimposing other keys upon other keys. So what that chord really is it's E major over D major over C. So it's like a tertiary stacked chord. It's like a triple-decker bus. And it's very, very, very rich and very dense. And when it comes to improvising, it's like another thing that you can try and use, you know? So rather than like diatonic resolution, suddenly if you think, okay, I'm in C7, but I'm going to superimpose E major over it, then you're free to do whatever you want to do. And it's something about it is crazy. But the reason it works is because E wants to rise to F. So they all have a place to go. And you can pretty much do that with anything, which is really cool.